Hello, tile friends. Welcome back to another episode of Tile Money. This is the podcast where we discuss the business of being a tile contractor. My name is Luke Miller, and I started this podcast to help you. I want to help tile contractors near and far. I'm on a mission to help tile contractors grow and run profitable, sustainable businesses. I want to thank you for letting me know that it's helping, that this podcast is working. It's because of your contributions that we've gotten so far. Today's sponsor is Crossville for this episode. Now, Crossville, if you're looking for a tile manufacturer that consistently puts out high quality tile, a lot of it made right here in the United States, I highly suggest you check out Crossville. They're manufacturing the gauged porcelain tile panels, the really large panels. They're also donating time and energy into writing some of these installation standards and procedures. They've got a great contractor program if you're looking to purchase some of these panels. So check out Crossville, get in touch with your rep, and see how you can do business together. All right, so it is the month of March here, and we are continuing our discussions on employees. If you missed last week's episode with Dan Welch, there's a couple episodes in front of this one, but we're going to continue our conversation and dive deeper into it. We've been talking about company culture a lot, and that's really important. That's something Dan's done a great job of doing, and as well as locating and training employees and how this all intertwines with each other. So today we're going to continue that discussion. I wanted to know what Dan thought about putting down the tools. At what point does a contractor put down his tools, right? And become more of a boss or a leader?
Well, I guess the first thing is, are you the best at laying tile or are you best at being a president?
Yeah.
So determining who you are and what your beliefs are and what your core values and your strengths and your weaknesses, right? So my strength certainly is on large projects, not as much on high-end homes. So if I can get on a big job, I can lead that job.
Okay.
And everybody knows what they're doing. We get a lot done when we need to, right? So that's been my core strength. And sometimes you have to because you overbooked or the job's collided or whatever that is. So I realized that one of my downfalls is I'm not as organized as I should be. So about 5 years ago, I hired a operations officer. His name is Steve. He came out of the hospital business. He was at our local hospital, design and construction. But he had managed $1 billion worth of work through his department, and he was the leader of that department. So I just was very, very fortunate that someone of that caliber saw what Welch Tile was. And it wasn't because of the financial gain that he had coming to a tile company, I'll tell you that. It's because he saw that I gave a shit, right? So you're recruiting people at all levels of your company, and it's all about them liking you and you liking them and having the right atmosphere, because working at a huge hospital where maybe things aren't as easy, and you're working 14 hours a day and trying to please everyone and nobody's pleased. And here you can make a difference with 60 people and grow a company, and then I don't have to be into the day-to-day of all right, we got to buy insurance, we got to just
Right.
everything, 401ks and all of that. So that's not me. I have a sister that does a fantastic job at accounting. I have another sister that does a great job at payroll and coordination. I have a brother that's a great estimator. I have a brother who's a great field foreman. I have a brother-in-law that's our great field superintendent. So I have all these people that are great at what they do, and what I'm great at is what I do. I can go out and help the guys and make them feel a part. And then my real strength is vision, right? Direction. What are we going to do, and how are we going to do it? And then Steve takes that and breaks it down into small, manageable chunks. Well, that's what it means to apprentice one. In order to meet our company goals, here's our vision, where we're going.
Yeah.
And that's hugely important as well. So you need a team because you can't do it all. And I found really fast that I do a terrible job at everything when I'm trying to do everything. So yeah, don't think you have to get out of the field. If you're the best at that, that's what you should be doing.
Yeah. That's perfect advice. I love it.
All right. So I love Dan's take on this subject. He said, you really need to determine who you are and what you're good at. Be realistic with yourself. Be honest with yourself. There's nothing wrong with staying in the field or getting out of it as soon as you can if that's who you are. You need to figure out what position inside your company you're working towards yourself as a business owner. See, Dan saw weaknesses in himself that he knew he had to pass on, something that he didn't want to handle or wasn't as efficient in handling, the day-to-day office tasks. So he subbed that out. He found somebody to do that better. So you can certainly work toward similar goals, even as a small company. If you're doing your own bookkeeping and accounting, filing your own taxes, unless you've been trained and love it and are really proficient at it, just stop it. Just stop it. If it's causing you anxiety, you might be losing money. You need to build those business costs into your price. If it's going to cost you, say, even $500 a month for a good bookkeeper and CPA at the end of the year, and that would probably even be on the high end, but price it out, and find out what it's going to cost you and build it into your business model, because you're building a business that, frankly, you can't do all this work. You need to charge so that you can hire the professional to do some of your works. And that's going to help you as you grow to understand how to hire project managers, for instance, or estimators. That was my next thought when talking with Dan, was when does one want to hire a project manager or estimator? So check out what Dan says here.
So our project managers are the same as our estimators. So they estimate the job and project manage it. And then we have some that are like myself, a half-assed project manager estimator.
Yeah.
But I've done that job. But when you're trying to do too many jobs, like I said, you kind of do not as good a job. So I do project management and estimating, and I'll go out in the field. But I try to take special jobs that are tough and take care of those. If they're out of town, I'll go out of town, get them started, manage the team, get it to a point where everything's running smooth, and I can get out of there. But we have 2 locations, one in Holland and one here in Kent City. And in Holland, we have 2 estimator project managers. One of them is specialty swimming pools, food plants, just a tremendous installer who became a field superintendent, who became a project manager and estimator, Rick. And then another person that we hired that was a tremendous soft goods person, and he's a great salesperson. So that location is managed with those 2 people. And we have 2 here that handle all our largest projects. So they're taking off all day. They don't leave their desk, type of thing, and then we have our field superintendent who kind of coordinates all of that work with, who's going where. And then we have a residential department where Brady is managing, I think he did 90 jobs last year, just high-end residential jobs. So hugely valuable person. He manages it with all of his customers. And then we back him up with additional labor. But then we also have a soft goods installer who we're trying to move into that position right now. So he's working with our best guys to learn how to take off, learn how to project manage, and grow our soft goods side of our company. So hugely important to have that team around you to support and grow each one in the team. So we don't try to. One of the things we don't do is we do not go after other people's people.
Right.
It's just a core value that I believe strongly in, that it's just the wrong thing to do, is to try to headhunt somebody that you work with or in the same community. So we have to develop them from the ground up.
I imagine, though, organically you do have people coming in and saying, "Hey, I hate my job."
We do, yeah. And we don't push them away, but we're not gonna go.
You're not gonna go after them, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense. A lot of respect to you, Dan, for keeping to that core value.
Yeah. Well, people judge you by all what you do, right?
Yeah.
So everything you do, they're looking at with a fine tooth comb, so it's really simple to me. I don't have to lie because I can't. So I'm going to be the truth, and I'm going to put it right there, and matter of fact, and
Yeah.
I'm not a lot of big words. It's just to the point.
So what you're saying is, I want to play poker with you.
Yeah, I lose it. I'm not a gambler.
Yeah, me neither.
All right, so Dan's got a great method where his project managers are also his estimators. That makes a lot of sense because the project managers are out there every day. They're seeing in real time how long different aspects of the tile are taking. No doubt this allows them to estimate more accurately and efficiently. And again, Dan is utilizing people due to their strengths and building on that team to succeed. I really like these points Dan's bringing out. All right, we've got some tile news sponsored by the NTCA here. I thought it was, a great month to talk more about the online university that the NTCA has. It's one of their many benefits. If you're looking to train employees, apprentices, they have over 100 or close to 100 courses, I should say, right around there, that are designed for apprentices. And those courses are going to take those apprentices from day one, short little videos introducing them to the tile trade, and all the way through 24 months, 2 years of training. I think this could be a great way for you to attract enthusiastic, serious-minded people to work for you. The type of people who want a career and who want to stick around for the long term. See, today's youth, they want to know that what they're giving you will lead to something bigger, and they want to see that progression. It's easy to lay it out with the NTCA's online university. And so what Dan is talking about is, in this online university, it's providing people with a clear progression, help them reach their goals. Perhaps they want to be a lead installer, or perhaps they want to move on to sales or management, but you're going to show them the steps. Well, in the next 2 years, we're going to run through these steps. You're going to know about the tile industry. Either way, whatever they decide, it's up to you as the business owner to start implementing some of these tactics. And you will be able to attract better employees. I know you will. Stop just complaining about the generations, right? And we're going to talk about that here in a little bit as well. So if you want more information on that NTCA Online University, check out the link in my show notes. You can always get a hold of Jim Olson, Becky Serbin, or just visit the website. All right, back to the interview with Dan. Dan shared what he's doing on social media and how that is attracting employees as well. We also talked about working with the next generation. And guess what? We're not using the word millennials anymore. Check it out.
I'm not in that era. I'm a X instead of a millennial, but I've put our showroom person, Kayla, in charge of our social media posts, and she's doing a good job. And it's all about showing people, more than product.
Yeah.
But we altered our website, so we have an online application.
Okay.
But most of our applicants come from word of mouth or from an employee's kids, that kind of thing. But we do put them out on some of the search engines when we need them.
Yeah.
We seem to be getting more applications than anyone else around. And when they come in, they're pretty committed to wanting to, through the first interview, they want to come back for another interview and they want to go to work.
Okay.
So I think we're doing really well. I think we had 11 applicants right now. 3 are going to start on Monday. So we have 3 onboarding on Monday. Okay. So we do a drug testing. As long as they go through and meet that application, I think they're in that process right now, getting their drug test back. But it's really, it's difficult, because out of that 3, you'll probably keep 1.
Yeah.
It just isn't for them, right? And then they don't want to go through the pain of learning how all this goes, because it takes a long time to be a tile setter.
Yeah.
I have a huge respect for the tile setter because it does take, I think it takes about 7 years, to be honest, to do what we do. But we do swimming pools, and it takes a lot.
Do you call that
know all of that?
what do you call them? A journeyman in your company, or?
Yeah, a journeyman, and then we have a master's position as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, apprenticeship, 4 to 5 years, I mean, depending on the person. In a rare case, maybe a little quicker, but to be a full journeyman, 7, 8 years sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Well, if you're doing residential, or doing one specific thing, say all you do is, restaurants.
Yeah.
You can get pretty good pretty fast.
Yeah.
But when you take the whole gamut of what is available out there, we do a lot of food processing plants where it's a fully vitrified tile. They're, installed with epoxy, vibrated in, and then you power grout the different grouts in. Hugely, it's a good market for us.
Yeah.
But it takes, a lot of guys. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of guys. About 8 to 12 guys to do a job of that. And then, they're 30, 40, 50,000 foot jobs, Yeah. So it takes a lot of resources, a lot of money.
Incredible.
The swimming pools are similar. It takes, a dozen guys in probably about 12 weeks to do an Olympic pool. But you're mudding all the walls, mudding all the floors, everything's got to be precise. And you don't do a pool every day.
Yeah.
Right? You have to do them. Maybe we do one a year. This year we have 3 to do. So we're going to get a lot of guys learning how to mud walls again. The young guys, the new guys.
Yeah.
But a lot of wheeling, a lot of stuff to do. So
a lot of labor. Yeah. You mentioned, millennials, which of course has been, we've been talking about millennials for what, a decade now?
Yeah.
And now we're getting into the next generation. I believe it's Generation Z. I might have that wrong.
I think so.
What do you, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this next generation. What are you must have something in motion. Are you, researching what they need, what they want? Do you, what are you doing?
I have a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I told you, I got quite a few kids. So I have 3 in high school yet.
Okay.
13, 14, and 18. One getting ready to go to college, girls. And then I have a 33-year-old and a 26-year-old, and then a foster daughter who's 30.
Okay.
So I've been through the millennials and the Zs, right?
Yeah.
But I do believe that it still goes back to the basics of being firm, fair, and friendly. You have to hold them accountable. You have to.
Yeah.
So some of them don't know how to be held accountable, and that's okay. We're going to teach them. We're going to coach them, and either they're going to stay in or they're not. But it's just generally you have to communicate.
Yeah.
And they have to learn what is expected, and it's just a process. But you're going through a lot more people because you have to go through that process of not only teaching them the skill of tile, but a lot of it is the skill of communication. I think a lot of the younger people don't communicate as much as what we do, face to face.
Yeah.
So I don't have any problems with the millennials. I think they have huge potential, or the Z. It's just another way to manage.
Yeah.
And if it's important to you, then you should go out and get the information you need to be able to manage them, and that's available. But now you got to go back to school, or go to class, or hire a consultant.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have a thriving mindset in order to have a thriving action set, right? So this too is for the good. You have to be. I think a big part of it is you got to be thankful and grateful. Every day I'm thankful. And that is huge in the scheme of things. I don't expect anything. And if tomorrow you go out of business and I don't have anything, I'm still thankful. This too, is for the good. And God's there, and he definitely works amazing things for me,
Yeah, so. For sure. I mean, the worst thing somebody could do for themselves and their company is to write off a whole generation. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But people have been doing it, and I think the important thing is we have to remember, I mean, this is nothing new, certain people do that every generation, and just don't be one of those people.
Don't quit learning.
Yeah, right.
All right. So another reoccurring theme here, and I keep saying it, is Dan continues to utilize other people's strengths. He has someone handling his social media accounts because he realizes he's not that proficient at it. And guess what? It's paying off for his company. He said that people are finding him on Instagram, on social media, but the key there, and he realizes it, having conversations, he knows what's happening. He said the key is to focus on people with your posts. And I couldn't agree more. Don't focus so much on the product. Show the people, tell the story, tell your people's story. When it comes to working with that next generation, that's going to be ever so more important. And Dan's going to continue to utilize the skills that he's already learned and already implemented. Communication, training, holding people accountable. Dan said, it doesn't matter what generation they come from. You need to hold them accountable. I believe, and I know I said this in the interview, but I believe the worst thing you could do is to just lump a generation into a category as no good, lazy, not ethical, not wanting to work. I mean, why would you do that? Your grandparents did it to you. Don't do it to the next generation. All right, so here's another Tile Money tip, and this Tile Money tip is sponsored by Laticrete. This tip was taken from the business incubator that we had last September. It's a continuation of last week's tips on how to differentiate yourself. In a world of so many tile installers, depending on where you're installing tile, right? There's a lot of good tile installers. How do you stand out? Listen as Ron talks to us about the skill of projecting uniqueness. We're jumping in here in the kind of mid-sentence, and Ron is talking about the CTI, everybody's favorite subject, whether or not it's beneficial from a business perspective. Check it out.
It's total garbage. It's total garbage if you sit for the test and then don't do anything with it. It's totally worthless. Don't waste your time. It's absolutely gold if you incorporate it into everything that I've talked to you about so far. There are only, in our industry, there are only a few things you can do to get actual nationally recognized credentials. There's only a few things. Look, there are other companies that are experimenting with this. I know full well, I've read their documents. Weedy has come out with this training that you can come and get certified on their system or whatever. And the whole concept behind that is not a poor concept. In fact, we kicked it around until I almost got shot. It's not a bad concept. If you go to training, Schluter's training, tell people, 100%. You're trained on the system. Absolutely tell people, 100%. You go to one of my trainings, tell people. You have to tell people that you're continuing your education. In fact, good marketing would have bits of your crew that have continued or achieved. Okay? You have to put those things in there. And it is not garbage. People fail this test like you cannot believe. It has a 70% failure rate. So if you've taken this test and passed, it's no. All right, now I will tell you a lot of the reasons why people fail the test is time management. And people say, oh, this isn't even realistic, time management. Come work on my job and tell me that time management's not important. Because I'm an owner that's going to hold your feet to the fire. All right, so there we go. Experience and expertise. My plug for the CTI. This is my plug for CTI. Listen to me. It's not garbage. It means something. In our industry, there are not many things like it. ACT, CTI, all those things, you need to budget for it, you need to market for it, you need to plan for it. It's real. Absolutely real. Take every opportunity you can. Now, I'm sort of preaching to the choir because some of you guys stopped installing tile long enough to listen to my blathering. So I realize that I kind of have a section of contractors. But if someone on the internet were to start a conversation, feel free to tag me in because I have no problems telling people that they're off base. They're just literally off base. And if you care about the future of our industry, you need to consider these organizations because they're literally the only organization right now not connected to a manufacturer directly that are trying to move the ball forward for us. Agree with it, don't agree with it, you can have whatever opinion you want. But I have seen people close architects, I've seen people close jobs, I've seen people land contracts, the ones that contract, I've seen people land it based on this alone. Why? What power? This is it. Credibility is a function of knowledge, proficiency, validity, background, and believability. And believability is the most mercurial thing you can get your hands on, okay? Because believability can disappear in a New York minute, okay? So in order to project experience and expertise, you need things that ground them. So what is third-party testing of Multi-Max Light mortar mean? What if I gave you lab data on Multi-Max Light, a product that we make, and that lab data said Laticrete International on the top of it?
Bias.
Okay, what if I gave you that same lab data and it said tested by the NTCA, Clemson University on it? Which one of these are more believable? The third-party lab, right? Guess what? CTI works on the exact same thing. I'm a good installer. Someone else beside my company said I'm a good installer. That's literally how that works. Okay? So, it's good, bad, different. I love it. All right, so here's the deal. Remember what I said about samples? If you can get a client to touch your work, physically touch your work, the odds of close go through the roof. If you can hand them a piece of material that this is how I build your shower, passing it around the table. This is a piece of the grout that we use. Build this grout, super hard, pass it around the table. If this is part of your exercise, every time they touch, they get more closer and closer and closer to close every time. So dramatically get people to touch your product. This is why I don't believe in closing over text messages, emails, telephone. Anybody got a contract over text message? You will. Telephone? You will. These are all ways, let me just put it this way. If you're doing business that way, and it is the regular way you do business, you are losing the power of everything we talked about before. You are marching towards commoditization. If the contract is worth getting, it's worth sitting across the table from someone and talking about. Not only that, you cannot gauge their stomach for the job. Okay, what I mean by their stomach for the job is, we've all had clients that we hated day 2 of a job. As you are sweeping the floor and getting ready to put your first, your first piece of uncoupling down, and they're like, how long is it gonna take you to do that over here? I noticed over here, this is a little, what about this wood? Is this okay to go over the wood? Anybody have a client like that? Yeah. Okay, so if you had a face-to-face and you set some expectations in the beginning on how that job was going to go, I'm not saying that neurotic customer won't be around, but you're going to help them not look over your shoulder, right?
All right, so the old CTI subject, right? Love it or hate it, you've got to admit and understand what Ron is saying rings true. This is the same way I look at the CTI. I try to look at it from a business point of view. Does it make sense for my business to invest in it? It only works if you are going to put it to work. It could be and is a great differentiator. One of the only organizations, one of the only trainings you can get that's outside of Laticrete manufacturers trainings, in-house trainings. So use these things to sell yourself. All right, I truly hope you've enjoyed today's episode. I hope I've given you something to think about and some helpful advice that you can put into action and apply in your business today and tomorrow. In next week's episode, we'll continue our discussion on employees. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider leaving me a review inside iTunes. Is one of the best ways to do it. You can go to the Google My Business link that I'll put in the show notes, or on Facebook. Until next week, stay profitable, tile friends.